In a surprising turn during Sean Diddy Combs' federal trial, former FBI agent Mark Halperin took the stand, revealing allegations of a vast protection network that extended to the highest echelons of U.S. politics. Ypost.com +2, thesun.co.uk +2businessinsider.com +2 Halperin testified that the FBI had been investigating Combs since the late 1990s, uncovering financial irregularities, connections to trafficking networks, and offshore shell companies. However, he claimed that each time the Bureau attempted to advance the investigation, they were met with unexpected roadblocks, including denied warrants and reassigned agents. A pivotal moment came in 2003 when Halperin alleged that Combs was operating under unofficial informant protection, a status that could only be granted by top federal officials. He suggested that this protection might have been authorized by individuals at the highest levels of government. Further intensifying the courtroom atmosphere, Halperin presented photographs from 2005 and 2007 showing Combs alongside then-Senator Barack Obama at private events. He alleged that these were not mere social gatherings, but meetings where Combs shared intelligence with political operatives in exchange for protection. The defense objected to these claims, but the prosecution introduced corroborating evidence, including travel logs and internal memos referencing meetings between political figures and high-profile entertainment personalities. Halperin also recounted a 2009 incident where the FBI's request to wiretap Combs aimed at intercepting communications with known narcotics traffickers was abruptly denied. He linked this denial to a call from a White House-affiliated legal office suggesting potential federal interference. These revelations have sent shockwaves through the entertainment and political worlds, prompting further scrutiny of Combs's alleged connections and the extent of his influence. The judge instructed the jury to ignore speculation, but the courtroom was already rattled. The implications weren't subtle. The message was clear. A man under federal surveillance had once held so much influence he could stop a wiretap. Dead in its tracks. Special Agent Redacted spoke carefully. "We're not saying President Obama personally protected Mr. Combs, but the system his administration oversaw created a back channel, a relationship, that gave Sean Combs unofficial immunity for years. Reporters couldn't write fast enough. Even the court stenographer hesitated. This wasn't about luck. It was about leverage and protection at the very top. And that was just the start." The jury leaned forward, eyes locked on the witness. Special Agent Redacted had pulled back a curtain no one in the media had dared to touch. Then the entire room shifted, from curiosity to unease. He held up a final image, not blurry, not covert, a high-resolution photograph taken at a private estate in Martha's Vineyard. In the photo stood three men: Sean Diddy Combs, former President Barack Obama, and Reverend Al Sharpton. No press, no crowd, not a public event, but an invitation-only gathering at a tech billionaire's estate, someone with deep ties to both Hollywood and government defense contracts. This was 2014, the agent said. They called it a charity dinner. But we obtained the guest list, and it wasn't just celebrities. There were names connected to sealed federal investigations, CIA-linked operatives, even arms dealers under international sanctions. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Bang. The judge slammed the gavel. "Order!" Agent Redacted continued unfazed. Mr. Combs wasn't there as a guest. He was there as a liaison, bringing information from the streets of New York to the halls of political power. In return, he got something back: protection, silence, immunity. One juror dropped their pen. Then came the story that changed the room entirely. In 2012, the agent said, we executed a trafficking sting in Miami. One of Mr. Combs' known associates was arrested with girls, drugs, and evidence of wire transfers to offshore accounts. It was a textbook case, until it vanished. 48 hours later, the file was sealed. The suspect was released. The case died. How? the prosecutor asked. A phone call, the agent replied. From a Capitol Hill extension. No name, just one call, and everything disappeared. He then handed over internal emails from baffled agents. One line stood out. Don't ask why this got buried. Just be glad you're not in the room. Then, the most disturbing detail yet. In 2015, we closely tracked Mr. Combs's international travel. First Haiti, then Colombia, then to private islands in the Caribbean. At first, we thought he was partying, but intel from foreign partners told us otherwise. Meetings with cartel-linked financiers, yacht parties with underage girls flown in from Brazil and Eastern Europe. One source claimed the girls were told they were auditioning for American Idol. A juror gasped. A woman in the gallery wiped away tears. Even the judge looked shaken. Agent Redacted paused, voice firm. All this time, Mr. Combs wore the mask of a mogul, a philanthropist, a revolutionary. But behind the curtain, he ran an empire built on fear, blackmail, and immunity paid for with influence. The judge called a recess. People filed out in silence. For the first time, Diddy looked like a man who knew the walls were finally closing in. When court resumed, the room felt colder. More still, it wasn't just a celebrity on trial anymore. It was the illusion of justice itself. And Agent Redacted wasn't done. We have reason to believe Mr. Combs kept surveillance tapes dating as far back as 2003. This wasn't hearsay. He clicked a remote. A projector screen lit up, displaying a screenshot from a hidden camera inside Diddy's Los Angeles mansion. Multiple monitors filled the frame: bedrooms, pools, studios. Some of the people being filmed had no idea they were being watched. We obtained a warrant in 2016 to seize 3 hard drives believed to contain these recordings. But by the time agents arrived, he stopped. The server room was on fire. Arson. Less than 20 minutes after we got clearance. Someone tipped him off, the courtroom murmured. One drive survived, the agent said. And what's on it may change everything. Miraculously recovered from a safe deposit box in Puerto Rico, the footage showed what the agent described as interactions between Mr. Combs and high-profile figures in states of extreme vulnerability. Some appeared intoxicated, others clearly coerced. Was Barack Obama in the tapes? The prosecutor asked. Deadpan? No, the agent replied. But several of his close allies were donors, political surrogates, even former campaign officials. Mr. Combs referred to them by first name. He knew their secrets, and he recorded them. The courtroom was dead silent. He didn't just collect those tapes for vanity, the agent said. He used them as leverage, currency. It was his insurance policy, in case the people who protected him ever turned on him. That night, the headlines exploded. But behind the scenes, in penthouses, war rooms, and marble hallways from DC to LA, something colder was happening. Crisis teams scrambled, asking the only question that mattered. How much did he really know? Day 5. Court resumes. Under heavy federal protection, court reconvened the next morning under heightened security. Federal marshals lined the courtroom. The gallery was tense, hushed. There was no whispering now, just dread. Special Agent Redacted returned to the stand, holding a sealed envelope. He handed it to the judge with caution. Inside, a classified memo. On the letterhead, Central Intelligence Agency, Domestic Operations Division. This document, the agent said, was declassified specifically for this trial. Originally, authored in 2012. Subject line: Entertainment Assets, High-Risk Targets. The judge gave him a nod to proceed. Beginning in the mid-2000s, Sean Combs was flagged by multiple departments as a high-value cultural influencer. He had proximity to arms traffickers, offshore financiers, and individuals of interest in Eastern Europe and West Africa. Though, He was never formally recruited. The CIA considered his network an asset. His parties, his studios, his social orbit, a honeypot of behavioral data. They didn't protect his crimes, the agent said carefully. But they overlooked them because it was useful. The courtroom bristled. Then came the ledger. The agent held it up. Notarized, thick, damning. This ledger shows wire transfers made by shell companies tied to Combs, including TriStar, entertainment and other entities previously linked to the Britney Spears conservatorship structure. Recipients included high-level political consultants, lobbyists, a former DOJ official, an individual connected to a 2015 Caribbean human trafficking case that mysteriously vanished from DOJ records. The implication was unmistakable. Diddy wasn't working alone. He was part of something larger, a shadow network where blackmail, influence, and silence were bought and sold, and then Agent Redacted delivered the final blow. We believe that one of Mr. Combs's offshore accounts was used to purchase classified information from a former NSA contractor. That contractor is now dead. The courtroom exploded in gasps. Even Diddy's defense team sat frozen. The president's number. The prosecutor leaned forward. You mentioned access. What kind of access are we talking about? The agent didn't flinch. Mr. Combs had the president's direct number. In 2014, after a scandal involving underage girls and foreign nationals at one of his events, we attempted to detain him upon re-entry from St. Barth's. A red flag had been issued. His private jet was scheduled for search in Miami. He lifted a DHS record. Here's the alert. Active for 37 minutes, then suddenly rescinded. Why? The prosecutor asked. Because someone from the Obama White House called Homeland Security. The call lasted 41 seconds. It came from a secure line used by White House counsel. After that, the alert vanished. Diddy walked off the plane untouched. Surveillance footage showed him smiling, stepping into a black SUV. Within 48 hours, the agent added, Mr. Combs made a $500,000 donation to a PAC aligned with the Obama re-election campaign. The timing was chilling. I'm not here to accuse the former president, the agent said. I'm here to show that Mr. Combs had unprecedented access, and he used it to shield himself, cover crimes, and silence victims. The courtroom sat in still silence. No pens scribbled, no coughing, just breathless reckoning. Project Ghost Room. By the seventh day of testimony, media outlets had coined a term, the blacklist trial. That morning, Agent Redacted returned with a fireproof briefcase. Inside, a 94-page dossier codenamed Project Ghost Room, discovered during a 2022 raid on a hidden storage unit in Newark, New Jersey. Buried beneath a fake business front, agents found dozens of encrypted hard drives, hundreds of undeveloped Polaroid surveillance notes, flight logs, handwritten entries with first names and dates, transcripts from covert microphones allegedly placed in clubs and parties from 2004 to 2019. But the true shock was a folder labeled BL Priority. Protected archive inside were altered surveillance photos, wire routing maps, direct references to elite figures in entertainment, politics, and finance. Multiple names crossed out with one word beside them: resolved. Two names matched former White House aides. Another matched a current executive at Live Nation. But it was the black and white snapshots that broke the court's composure. Images of people compromised, unaware, and clearly filmed without consent. Each entry was surgical. Positions, timestamps, and cryptic notes like leverage, verify use, and hush. It wasn't disorganized extortion. It was a system. This archive, Agent Redacted said, holding up a printed index, was never for entertainment. It was blackmail. He explained how any time a rising artist resisted signing with Combs-affiliated labels, or when a political favor was needed, Diddy would make a suggestion. A tape might exist. they usually back down. In 2017, the agent continued, a pop star refused to perform at one of Mr. Combs's events. Days later, tabloids pushed rumors of a mental breakdown. Within 2 weeks, she signed with a label under Combs's distribution network. The courtroom absorbed this grimly, a system that weaponized image, media, and silence. But then the agent pointed to one entry that froze the room. BO plus RS, all handled. Payoff confirmed. Donation received. The initials were unmistakable. To those in the room, Barack Obama. RS, a powerful studio executive. While there were no direct recordings of the former president, the implication was undeniable. Favors, donations, and quiet cooperation flowed both ways. Part of a mutual survival pact between power brokers. These are not allegations, the agent said. These are tactics, a system. A shadow empire built one night, one tape, one favor at a time. Day 9. The human toll. When court resumed, the tone was changed, harsher, heavier. Agent Redacted returned with a manila folder marked confidential. Witness files declined. These, he explained, are statements from individuals who cooperated with federal investigators but declined to testify due to threats, NDAs, or credible fear of retaliation. There were 26 names. He began to read. A former choreographer who worked closely with Combs from 2005-2012. I was drugged at an after-party. I woke up bruised. I tried to report it. My agency dropped me within a week. A male model, 19, flown to Miami for a supposed fashion shoot. It was like eyes wide shut, cameras, no phones, a handler who told me not to speak unless spoken to. But the most devastating came from CW11, identity protected. I was 17. I thought it was a mentorship. It wasn't. He said if I left or told anyone, my family would regret it. The courtroom was silent. Journalists stopped typing. Even the judge looked shaken. These aren't influencers, the agent said, voice steady. These aren't people with lawyers or PR. These are the forgotten. Their fear has allowed this to go on, far longer than it ever should have. He held up another sheet, names redacted, dates and locations visible. What is that? The judge asked. Confirmed victims, their stories aligned with GPS, phone, logs, wire transfers, and witness statements. This, the agent said, is the part the headlines don't print. By the time he stepped down, not a single juror had dry eyes. Final day. The sealed transcript security was doubled, not due to threats, but because everyone in the room knew what was coming. We've saved the final piece of evidence for today, Agent Redacted said. He opened a sealed envelope. Inside, a transcript of an intercepted 2015 phone call between Mr. Combs and an unnamed figure from a major DC lobbying firm. The recording had been verified by both voice authentication software and 2 separate analysts. He began to read, Diddy's voice. You said keep it off the radar, but I did my part. I brought in the dollars. I brought in the artists. We flipped 5 precincts blue last cycle. If I go down, some of y'all are coming with me. The agent looked up. That voice belonged to Mr. Combs, and he wasn't talking about parties. He was referencing campaign, contributions, coordinated celebrity influence, and potentially election manipulation. The courtroom exploded. One juror could be heard whispering, Jesus Christ. The optics were nuclear, a sitting president's campaign effort, possibly, propped up by one of the most scandal-ridden figures in modern entertainment. Diddy wasn't just buying silence, the agent said. He was buying relevance, and the currency was your vote. He stepped down. The judge recessed the court, and just like that, a celebrity trial turned into a national reckoning, a scandal that reached beyond blackmail, beyond influence, into the darkest pipelines of political and cultural power. Final question. How many more names are in that file? Would you like the next section to explore? Media fallout. Journalists breaking stories, networks under pressure, leaks, political consequences, resignations, investigations, subpoenas. Diddy's defense, how he or his attorneys try to reframe the narrative, the victim's side. Deeper into CW11 and others stepping forward now. Public reaction, how culture, fans, and politicians react to the Blacklist trial.